In 2011, a team of researchers at Harvard Business School brought participants into a laboratory. They asked them to assemble a simple storage box from IKEA. The task took about 10 minutes. After finishing, the participants were asked how much they would pay for the box they just built. Another group of participants never touched the box. They only saw the already assembled product. The answer was clear. The builders valued their own box nearly twice as much as the non-builders. The boxes were identical. The only difference was the effort invested. That gap in valuation is called the IKEA Effect. It is a cognitive bias that makes you love what you made, even if it is imperfect. The result puzzled the researchers. Why would a few minutes of simple labor double a product's perceived worth? The answer lies in how the brain handles effort and ownership. When you put work into something, your mind signals that the result must be valuable. Otherwise, why would you have bothered? This is a form of effort justification. People rationalize their own investment, but the IKEA effect goes deeper. It also triggers a sense of competence and accomplishment. Completing a task, even a trivial one, releases a small reward signal in the brain. You feel capable. The product becomes an extension of that feeling. You own it not just physically, but emotionally. That emotional ownership inflates its value. But the IKEA effect is not just about boxes. Researchers tested it with origami. They asked participants to fold paper into shapes. Then they had them bid on their own creations. Another group bid on origami folded by experts. The participants valued their own amateur folds almost as much as the expert ones. Outsiders, however, rated the amateur origami as ugly and refused to pay much for it. The bias is entirely internal. You see your own effort, not the flaws. The viewer sees only the flaws. This gap between creator and observer is the core of the effect. It explains why your first cake, your first painting, or your first attempt at knitting feels special to you, even if it looks terrible to anyone else. The name IKEA Effect comes from the Swedish furniture company, but the effect predates IKEA by millennia. Humans have always valued their own handiwork more than that of strangers. The researchers chose the name because IKEA products demand assembly. That assembly creates a bond. You become attached to the furniture because you built it. The company benefits. Customers are more satisfied with a product they assembled themselves, even if the instructions are maddening. But there is a limit. The effect only works if the task feels achievable. If the effort is too high or the outcome is a disaster, the bias flips. You feel incompetent. The product becomes a symbol of failure, not pride. Consider a broken table leg. If you assembled the table and it wobbles, you might still feel affection for it. You think, I built this, flaws and all. But if the leg breaks off completely, the effect vanishes. You feel frustration. The product's objective quality overrides your subjective bias. So the IKEA effect has boundaries. It requires a successful completion, even if flawed. It also requires that the effort feels voluntary and meaningful. If you are forced to do something, the effect weakens. The sense of ownership comes from personal choice. You chose to build it. That makes it yours. Another experiment tested this with customization. Participants could design their own sneakers online. They then valued those sneakers higher than identical pairs they did not design. The customization was minimal, but the effort of choosing colors and patterns created attachment. This is why companies like Nike and Dell offer customization options. They profit from the IKEA effect. You pay more for a product you had a hand in creating, even if your hand only clicked a few buttons. The effort does not have to be physical. Mental investment also triggers the bias. Planning a meal, choosing a vacation itinerary, or tweaking a playlist all create the same inflated value. But the IKEA effect is not always helpful. It can lead to poor decisions. You might refuse to sell a piece of furniture you built, even for a fair price, because you overvalue it. You might hold onto a failed DIY project because you invested time and cannot let go. This is related to the sunk cost fallacy, where past effort justifies future commitment. The IKEA effect adds emotional weight. the object becomes part of your identity. To admit it has low value feels like admitting you wasted your time. So you keep the crooked bookshelf. You display the lumpy vase. Your friends say nothing, but they notice the imperfection. The effect also influences how we judge our own work. A writer might think their first draft is brilliant, only to see flaws a month later. The IKEA effect fades over time. As the emotional attachment from building cools, objective evaluation returns. This is why a night's sleep helps you edit your own writing. The effort and the outcome separate. You become more like an outsider. Similarly, a chef might be proud of a dish they cooked, but after eating it, they realize it is too salty. The effect is strongest immediately after completion. Then it decays. Is there a way to use the IKEA effect intentionally? Yes, marketers use it, but you can also use it to increase your satisfaction with everyday tasks. If you want to enjoy a meal more, cook it yourself. If you want to appreciate your furniture more, assemble it. If you want to feel attached to a project, do some of the work yourself. The effect can also improve education. When students build models or create their own experiments, they remember the material better. The effort creates ownership of the knowledge. It becomes theirs, not just something the teacher gave them. But there is a dark side. The IKEA effect can make you overconfident. You might think your amateur painting is gallery-worthy. You might value your own opinion too highly simply because you put effort into forming it. This is especially dangerous in arguments. If you spend hours crafting an argument, you become attached to it. You resist new evidence. The effort invested in your position blinds you to its flaws. Recognizing the IKEA effect in yourself can help you step back. Ask, would I value this the same if someone else had made it? That question can cut through the bias. The original study also found that the effect is stronger when the task is completed. If you stop halfway, the attachment is weaker. This is why unfinished projects bother us. The brain wants closure. The IKEA effect rewards completion. Once you finish, you get the emotional payoff. But if you abandon a project, you get nothing. The effort is wasted, and the bias does not protect you. So you feel guilty. This is why people often finish assembling furniture even if it is late and they are tired. The urge to complete, and then love the result is powerful. Another boundary, the effect requires that the creator feels they did a good job. If you know you did a terrible job, you cannot convince yourself otherwise. The bias works only within a range. Small imperfections are overlooked. Major failures are not. So the IKEA effect is not a delusion. It is a mild enhancement. It makes you see the best in your own work, not a fantasy version. This is adaptive. It encourages you to try new things. If every imperfect creation felt worthless, you would never learn. The bias gives you a small boost of confidence to keep going. In daily life, the IKEA effect explains many small glitches. Why does your own garden look better to you than a botanical one? Because you planted it. Why does your amateur bread taste amazing to you but dry to others? Because you baked it. Why does your child's drawing look like a masterpiece to you? Because you watched them draw it. The effect is not just about furniture. It is about any creation you have a hand in. It is a cognitive shortcut that says, if I did it, it must be good. That shortcut evolved because effort usually signals value. In prehistoric times, if you built a shelter, it was worth protecting. The brain kept that heuristic. But in modern life, the heuristic misfires. You overvalue a piece of furniture that took an hour to assemble. The mismatch between effort and actual quality leads to an error, yet the error is usually harmless. It makes you happier with what you have. It reduces buyer's remorse. It encourages you to engage with the world actively rather than passively consuming. The IKEA effect is a bias, but it is also a feature. It makes you love the imperfect products of your own labor. And that love, even if irrational, is a small compensation for the effort you put in. So the next time you catch yourself smiling at a wobbly shelf you built or a cake that slumped, stop for a second. Recognize that the pride you feel is the IKEA effect at work, but do not try to suppress it. The bias exists for a reason. It rewards effort and encourages creativity. The real danger is when the bias prevents you from seeing reality. That is when you need an outside opinion. Ask a friend. Let them tell you if the shelf is straight. But for your own private joy, let the bias have its way. You built it. It is yours. And that is a glitch worth keeping.